Good evening everyone, this is Lucas No, and in this video I am basically going to be working on a project. I know that, well, let's just say I just want to clarify that my skill set in Adobe Photoshop is absolutely dreadful. But I'm going to be working towards a guideline as I got here, which my scenario is: this assignment will give you an opportunity to use the creative and digital skills you have developed through previous projects to produce 2D graphics, 2D animation and 3D animation, culminating into one final production which should show your subject specialism. Because my dominant specialism is more aiming towards cinematic lighting in a 3D environment, I do have some images or renders of certain objects and characters who are in certain poses and positions that are taken using a 3-point lighting setup or cinematic lighting, which is my specialist area. My specialist area is also in 3D. But for my first task of this, it's to create a 2D digital graphic. I had to demonstrate my use of 2D graphics software tools for computer game animation. This is what is primarily working towards a video game production. I could aim this towards my my official production known as Soulstorm, but it's going to be dominantly 3D, obviously, because of the kind of genre it will be. So I'm thinking, right, how am I going to be demonstrating 2D digital graphics for a 3D video game? There are many ways I could do this. I could create textures, because textures have to be made with 2D programs like Adobe Photoshop. I have the CS6 version. A lot of other people are using CC versions, but me personally, I don't really see a difference. There probably is a difference, but I personally don't really notice any difference, and it doesn't make a difference unless you are bringing your CS6 file into CC, and if you save it in CC, it's not, from my personal experience and my understanding, it's not backwards compatible. It probably is, but I just don't know how to do it. It could have something to do with a plugin, but I ain't got any plugins relating to that. So I could make a 2D texture. It is technically a 2D graphics. It's a digital graphics. It's not. It doesn't say anything about animating it, which is our task 2. But for this video, we are demonstrating task 1, which is 2D digital graphics. And I'm thinking, for the type of project I would be working on, I actually do have something noted down in my phone, which is a kind of idea that I was thinking of for this product, for this project. My idea for this project, possibly, is a sci-fi genre set in the near future. It is to do with situation awareness of clean energy, climate change and global warming. I could stick with that, but I'm thinking that I would possibly aim it either towards my video game or stick with the climate change situation awareness. The reason I'm a bit conflicted on what to do is because there are so many things that I could apply to this, and it dominantly applies to a video game. So I'm thinking, if I'm already got a video game in production, task 1 should be quite simple when it comes to making like a texture for, let's say, an object or a floor or anything like that, or even for a character. I can just retweak some of the textures of that. But for this video, I'm probably just gonna stick on creating texture. Now, what kind of texture would I work on? It depends on the kind of object it is. Because my game is 3D in general, I would work with something that's got a normal map to it, or a bump map. But because I have not, well, let's just say this is not a planned video. For example, I haven't got anything prepared. This is more building something from scratch. And I find it more easier to work with creating a wall or a floor from scratch. A lot easier than other things. So I'm going to work on possibly a billboard. To be honest. A billboard that will be animated, which would incorporate into the tasks too, which would be to the animation. So I want to think, when it comes to a sci-fi, you want to have a billboard, and I could actually apply this billboard or sign or poster or something relating to clean energy and climate change, but it still exists in my video game, which I think might be the best idea to do, or the best work to start with. Now, usually when you're working on certain things like textures and all that, you have a certain setup on it, ranging from like texture resolutions, which can be based on the sizes of what you're working towards. A lot of video games today work with a 2048 by 2048 texture resolution or pixels. Where I done college and university, well, what I'm doing at the moment, besides running my Aesthetics Interactive Studios, I'm also a student in a HNC, which is Higher National Curriculum, which is a level 4 qualification course. So it's like a university kind of work functions and basics. So generally we work at A3 or A4 depending on what we're working on. This relating to a production, so therefore I'm going to have to put it to a production standard as much as possible. So I'm thinking, if it's going to be a billboard in a video game, I am going to have to work on figure out its resolution. I could use an A4, but I think the resolution of that might be a little too high when it comes to a performance for a video game. So we're going to use the standard texture resolution sizes. I'm actually going to go here in File, and I'm going to go on New. I generally work with customs because I work with certain resolutions like 1920 by 1080. I use that when it comes to creating logos because it's appropriate personally. So we are actually going to name this project. We are going to call this our task 1 demonstration poster. Excuse me. And we're going to keep our color mode as the RGB, and we're going to keep it at 16-bit. We're going to keep our resolution at 300, or what we know at college is DPI when it comes to like A3 paper. The reason I keep it at 300 is just, well, I just keep it at 300. It's just like similar resolution as you would with a A4 paper, but obviously we've got a different width and height, but resolution is still the same. So for the width, which is obviously how long it is or how wide it is, we're gonna have this longer than the actual height. So for this we're gonna use a 2048 by 1024, and we're just gonna click on OK once you've got everything that you really want, and we're gonna click OK for that. Excuse me. So we got our now billboard size. I'm going to use many things in this video actually, and I'm not going to be editing this video in terms of cutting it down into certain sections or things like that, but I will edit this video when it comes to adding certain content into it. But what I will be using in this will be basic tools like the brush tool. I could use the wand tool as well when I want to select certain areas. I will use the text tool for putting texts in. I will also be using layer based effects, which is down here. Currently it is not available because this is locked, and when it's locked that means that I cannot access it or change anything of it. But it doesn't mean, but I can draw in it. But when it comes to effects or things like that, from my understanding, you can't edit its effect. But we're going to keep that background. We're going to use that as our canvas. So we'll be painting over it. First, I want to check my tools and see what I've got here. I think the first thing that I'm going to do, if it's a billboard for a situation awareness or climate change, you would use something like, what would you generally associate clean energy with? You would generally associate it with a wind turbine. And incidentally, I do have a Google search up here where we have wind turbines that we will have as a reference to what we're actually working towards. I won't actually take these images and bring it into Photoshop, but I'm gonna create my own wind turbine that is inspired by these. It won't be exactly the same, obviously. It's not because of copyright issues. I don't think there's really any way of copyrighting a wind turbine, to be honest. But when it comes to using an image, you need the permission of the person who took the image. But we're gonna look at this one and look at the shape of the wind turbine. You see it's got this long shaft here, and you have its fans or its blades, and it's got its end rotor up here. First thing I'm gonna do is create a wind turbine for this video. We are going to use basic. We are going to be using basic brushes. So first things first, we're just going to use the basic brush. We're going to create a new layer by going down here, and we're going to click on that, and we got what we got, layer 1. I'm going to rename that by double clicking on it with the left mouse button, and I'm going to name this turbine shaft. So now we got our turbine shaft. What I'm going to do is make another layer actually, and I'm going to call this shaft outline. The reason I'm going to call it shaft outline is because I want to get an outline of a shaft. Now I could use the pen tool to get more accurate lines, but I'm going to use a simple brush, so it makes it a little more organic and fluid. Whatever floats your boat, really. I could do that. So what? Plus, I'm gonna turn down its size. To turn down your size or anything like that, you can click here and just use that to drag your size and its hardness. But I'm using the square brackets to change my size. So we're going to have a nice little short one, and like I said, I'm not very skilled in using Adobe Photoshop, so bear with me when it comes to painting. I am dreadful, but I'm gonna try and do some nice little strokes, very bad strokes as well, if you don't mind. Very bad, but this is just an outline, and the outline is more of just getting a shape. It's not the final. If I wanted to, I could actually just hold down the left mouse button and hold down the left shift key, and I can make a straight line like so. Be more cleaner, but I'll try, which I could use. So I'm gonna press the E key, which lets me go to my eraser. I'm gonna increase its size, and I'm just gonna delete these. It might be a little laggy because my computer is processing so many things, like my Steam's open and it's installing stuff. I got LibreOffice, which is a free office like workflow, kind of like Microsoft Word or Microsoft Office stuff. But as we've got Libre or Libra, however you want to pronounce it, and this is Libra Writer. It allows me to open Microsoft Word stuff, as well that, well, if I was using other ones as well, I can like open like PowerPoint and Excel and things like that. So this is handy for anyone who doesn't have or cannot afford or Microsoft Office stuff. You can just go and download LibreOffice. It's free of charge. You don't have to pay anything for it. But look at the wind turbine. Yep. Press B to go back to my brush tool, and I'm just gonna use my shift key to create something. First thing first, I'm gonna build the top of the shaft like here. And because of the kind of turbine it is, it does kind of go in certain angles. So I am going to just come slightly to the end, hold down the left shift key, and then I'm going to press the left mouse button, and we get that. As you can see, that streak is a little too long. So we're going to try that again. We're going to just move it slightly, and that's a bit more nicer. And we've got to now try and balance the top here. So I've got that there, and I'm going to do the same here. And I'm going to just bring it down to about here. That seems a little too far out. So again, a little too far out. I mean, my measurements are dreadful. Bear with me. Okay, that looks fine. I'm just gonna rub out this bit, or just like so. It is not a best or not an accurate prediction of a shaft, but it's a shaft nonetheless. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, because we've got our shaft outline selected, I'm gonna lock that, which means that I cannot erase anything in there. As it says, cannot use the eraser because the layer is locked. That is helpful. That means that I can't mess it up. We do have a turbine shaft. This is actually going to be the color of the shaft and its pattern and design detail of the shaft. But I've got to try and think of its color because it's white, but my canvas color is white as well. I could get rid of that by clicking or hiding it so it's all transparent, but it still leaves me thinking, how do I paint inside this? Well, I can paint inside it easily, but if I went to my turbo shafts, go here, choose a color from a brush. A turbine is generally white, but I'm going to use a palish bluish light white, maybe something like that. I'm going to click OK. But if I use the square bracket to increase its radius, and then I start painting, you can see I'm painting inside it, but it's going on the outside as well. To prevent something like that, I can use the magic wand tool by pressing the W key, and it links to that. Depending on your setup, if you are new, sometimes some of these tools will not be available, will not be default. If that is the case for some people, you can just hold down your left mouse button on these and you can select certain pieces. And I just had a message. Let's see what that message is. Oh, it's only from YouTube. It's nothing to worry about. Okay. So I'm gonna use the magic wand tool, and I am just gonna. I could click on the inside of the shaft outline. Because I'm still on this layer, it selected the whole canvas because there's nothing here. So I'm going to click on the shaft outline, use the magic wand tool, and as you can see we have this line here, which means that only the outside of it is selected. I could select on the inside, but then you will get this kind of line inside here. Depending on your hardness of your brush or your pen, depends on how it looks inside that, and it won't tie in with the shaft outline. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the outside. Then I'm going to basically inverse it. Selection. Go clicking up on this select and go inverse. Or you could press Shift Control I. Or Command Shift I if you are using a Mac. So now I've got the interior selected. I can now go back to my turbine shaft, go back to my brush tool, and we can paint inside our shaft like so. It's going to be very cartoony like, but once you start working on these things, including making shades, it will look nice. So let's just double paint over it just to make sure. And we got our turbine shaft. I'm going to keep the magic wand over it to maintain its thing, so if I am working the same, I ain't going to mess it up. I'm going to do this at one step at a time, and this is going to be a long video, so you can skip across or leave this video if you have to. This is more of an academic video anyways on working on a project, so I want to make sure that I get the best as possible. So with our shaft now done, I am going to zoom in, and to zoom in we're going to press the C key or the Z key depending on where you are in the world, and we're just going to hold down the left mouse button and just drag myself in. But I can also drag myself out depending how, just want to get myself around it. Now I can hold down the space key and just drag myself to a position so I can see it clearer. There are many things I can do with this. I can make more layers and start giving it certain more details to it. But first we're going to start with its effects. A layer style. And we have all of these available for us. I think to begin with I am going to use a pattern overlay. A pattern overlay is basically a variety of different patterns that you can use. But I want something that closely resembles something of a wind turbine. Clearly that does not. Something like that may, but I might have to turn its scale down and make it smaller and turn its opacity down as well if I have to. But I want to use a different pattern. I mean, at the moment these are the only patterns that appear to be showing for me, but I don't want to use any of these patterns. So I'm going to click on this cog here, and I can select a multitude of different surfaces. Well, you've got different ones. You've got artist surface, brush, canvas, color paper, erodible textures. If I look at erodible textures, you get this message come up. It's asking if you want to replace the current patterns with the patterns from the erodible textures. If you click OK, all these will be gone and everything in the erodible textures will be here. If you click on append, it will include these in it as well, but I don't want to because sometimes it can cause a bit of a confusion. So I'm going to click on OK, and we can select different textures. So what would be appropriate for a wind turbine? I say that one. I could increase its scale because I did turn it down, but I'm going to turn it down to something like, let's just, yeah, I'm going to make that 50%. 50%. It's a reasonable size. Now I can change its blend mode or change its opacity. If I change the opacity, bit your words, it basically means how see-through that pattern is. If I got it all the way down, you can't see. If I got it all the way up, it covers the color behind it. You do have other for things that you can use. But what I'm going to use for this, in terms of its blend mode, is I'm going to use an overlay. So it's faintly there, but not easy to see. As if it is from a distance. If it's more close up, I could probably just change that up. And things like that. But it still won't easily be seeable because it's an overlay. But I'm going to put it at 50. I could use a gradient to get to basically get a kind of shading effect. For example, if the sun's coming from the back, I can create a effect with the gradient to make it look like the edge of it is more brighter. Therefore, the sun's coming around it, like a subsurface scattering effect that you get in 3D things. Like if the sunlight's going through from behind your ears and things like that. I might actually do something like that. I'm going to assume that the sun is going to be in a certain position, so I can change this to a certain angle. It might be best if I have an angle like 175. Should be reasonable. I can change its scaling like that, where it can be flat or very tangent style, or well, I'll call it tangent. I can also change the color if I want to. If I just click on this gradient section here, it opens up the gradient editor, and I can choose a variety of different things. Now this would depend on the kind of setting of time that I'm going to have in this build. Remember, this build is going to be animated because it is set in the future. But that is only applies to something that isn't static. The actual shaft of this turbine, as it is in real life, is a static thing, so it doesn't move. The only thing that would move would be its fan turbines, or its turbine section, the engine part, the rotor. So I'm going to think of the time of day. I mean, the white and black is good, but you want to try and have it mimic that of real life. So first thing first, I'm going to click on this little arrow here. I can change it so it can affect how it looks. I can even change the opacity to a certain thing, but I won't need that. But if I wanted to, I can make it like that so it's more darker. But I'm going to leave it as it is. I think it's reasonable. But I can change its colour. I'm thinking, because it's black, this is a shaded area. If it's like a nice clear sky, we would want something kind of bluish, like so. As you can see, that looks amazing already. What I'm going to do though, I might actually move that slightly inwards, like that. And then I'm going to add in another part of this gradient by clicking just here. And as you can see, I now got a third part of this gradient. And I can change it to either a darker blue, or I can make it more lighter, as if it's like a kind of like coming from the other way. I might actually make this a bit more kind of greenish, as if it's like the grass section bouncing from it. So I've got that. I could either change the opacity, but that won't do much. And I accidentally just created a new one, so I'm just gonna. Yeah, how do I delete it? Oh yeah, there we go, delete. Sorry, I am just not in my best mood at the moment. Not saying that I'm having a bad mood. I'm just saying that I'm not exactly in my best. Not exactly in my best. I could change the opacity down. It all depends on. Oops, I was not meant to add another one in, and it keeps adding more in. I'm messing this up. I'm going to cancel that for now because I keep messing it up. I'm keep clicking too much. So basically, I'm just going to keep it as a blue pattern, like so. So it's like a nice clear day, and I'm going to change this to a slight orange, light yellowish kind of color, like so. as if it's the sun. And I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to change its blend mode to an... I can't necessarily have an overlay. I'll keep it as normal, but I'm just going to reduce its overlay to about 60%. So I get that faint-ish look to it. And I can tweak it a number of times if I wanted to. But I'm going to leave it as it is. And that is basically the ground part of my cartoonish looking turbine. I could get rid of that and give it a little more. As you can see, we now have this shaft. With the outline, it does make it look cartoon-like. Without it, it looks almost realistic. But it's not yet. The reason it's not yet to me, because I need to give it a kind of bump to it, like so. Or bevel and emboss. I've got at the moment, I can change its depth to make it more like flatter at the top, and instead of less rounded. But I'm gonna need to make it quite round because it is a turbine. I'm gonna say about 50 should do. I can change the size as well, so it's like that, but it just don't look right. But it won't look right when it's like that either. So I'm gonna have to trying to find a balance between. I think that's fine. I can make it go more inwards or outwards. We have to put it in a position where it's like it comes from the sun's direction. So it's like I've got that where you can't really see it at all, to a point where you get up. If anything, I think that looks good. I really believe for that looks good. I really do. I really do. That's just my personal opinion. If you think that this shaft looks quite good as well for a turbine shaft, you can give it a like if you want, like a YouTube like or anything like that, because this will be going up on YouTube under my Aesthetics Interactive Studios section, videos and things like that. But no, I actually believe that looks quite nice. It does look like it's got depth, even though it's very short depth. I can give it a stroke as well, so it gives it an outline. I can change the shape of that outline, so it's like 3. I could use a 3 or I could use a 1. It's very faint. I can change the opacity of it as well. But that just gives it an outline so you can see that it's actually an object. I can't give a inner shadow unless it comes from the other direction, but I can't really give it that kind of shadow either. Though I could, if it said come from the top, I'm gonna say if I put that to 90, you get that. It does give it a more, it does make it give it a bit more depth. So I will actually use that, and I'm gonna leave it as it is. It says it's on 21, but I can change it like that or change it like that. If I make it look more darker, like 40, you start getting that more 3D looking effect to it. Yeah. And I can turn off the stroke if I feel it don't look right. But no, I'm going to leave it as that is, because if I click OK, and we're going to look back out on a turbine. All turbines are different looking. I mean, this one's got like red lines on it. This one's got like kind of dot on it. This one is animated. You can, that is made in Photoshop, you can tell. But different turbines all over the world, and each one are different. I mean, look at this one. But that's the thing. It's down to interpretation. Wind turbines can come in different ways. But I think the way that I've got my turbine at the moment in my Photoshop is it's looking good so far. I might actually call that the end of this video, actually. I don't want to really take it too long, but if you enjoyed this video, you can give it a like on YouTube. And I will make a second video either tomorrow or in the coming days or something like that, because this is a actual work project that has to be done. So therefore it's working on digital graphics, as it shows here, using graphics software tools like Photoshop. So what did I use today in this video? Well, I created new different layers. I've got an outline of layers so I know where I'm painting in. I have used effects on the shaft to create a 3D looking turbine shaft. I have used the wand tool in order to paint inside this shaft outline. I used a brush tool of different radius size and at a softness in order to paint the shaft. I used the eraser tool for earlier because I use a simple brush stroking to create a very ugly looking outline of the turbo shaft or turbine shaft. I think that's everything for this video, but I will work on a bit more later on. So I will apologise that it's been long since I made a video on this channel. I will also apologise that this video is slightly longer than my Blender videos, but this is because this is a video more aimed at my H&C tutors to look through, listen to what I'm saying, watching what I'm working on, what tools I'm using it in Photoshop, how I'm doing it, because it all comes down to understanding the skill sets of this. I had to identify and explore appropriate software tools for a particular type of 2D graphics and give reasons for using those tools, and I think I have partially covered that in this video. I will obviously continue to explain what I'm doing and explaining the tools, why I'm using these tools in later videos. So thank you for watching, and I will see you all very soon. So see ya.